We come now to Ms. Marsha Walker. P&M women must reject Rowley's toxic code of secrecy. That's the headline on a release she put out a couple of days ago. We thought it interesting enough to want to speak with her about it. She's our guest. Good morning. Good to have you, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, Andy. Thank you for having me.
All right, so here's what you see in the first paragraph of this press release. The MP for Diego Martin West has time and again shown us his true feelings towards women, from his grooming comments to his references to the opposition leader's nightwear, and of course his callous treatment of me on nomination day. He has not only perverted the development of Diego Martin West as a member of parliament and in Trinidad and Tobago as prime minister, he has now deformed the role of women in the P&M with his infamous and downright toxic Cosa Nostra code of secrecy. What are you referring to here?
Okay, well, so the P&M has this lovely code of secrecy. We would have seen, could be about a month or two ago, where actually a councillor and alderman would have spoken out against the P&M, and they came out and said, breaking code of rank, and there's a way to do it, and et cetera, et cetera. Of course, it's never done in a gentle manner. I'm an advocate for gentle parenting. It's always in a bullying fashion. And then, we have that infamous Rowley saying, if you break rank, we will mash you up. We see a children's report coming out, and Ayanna Webster-Roy would have sat on it for 5 months, where children would have died. I mean, a serious, serious, serious report. So time and time again, and this is not the first time, of course, in my press release, in the press release, I would have spoken about the Darrell Smith report. Time and time again, there's serious issues, and we continue to keep it secret. Of course, years ago, we would have uncovered issues with the Prime Minister himself. And, it's just kind of, I had a life before politics. Again, a very serious issue. Just this week, last week, Friday, the Prime Minister was absent. He did not vote on the Sexual Offences Act. When I sat in the Senate a few months ago, that was a Sexual Offences Act. And the percentage of women, and this is not me being female, feminist, or anything like that, right? But studies would show that the percentage of persons who were most affected by that bill would have been women. And not a single female P&M senator spoke on that bill. So it's clear. From the grooming comments and not in your bedroom comments, even just yesterday, Fitzgerald Hines was speaking about women victims. He used the word victims and then says, but they're profiting from it. They are, so they're making it hard to prosecute because they're profiting from it. There seems to be some underlying misogyny, and the question that I raise is, the P&M's Women's League just a party group to do a boys' club bidding, to bully women, to force them into submission. Anyone who doesn't take up that role of submission, they'll deal with them. And at a time when women are fighting for their space in society, fighting for their role in politics, we are fighting domestic violence. Of course, the pandemic, you just spoke about the pandemic. We would have seen that child abuse, domestic abuse against women is on the rise. And yet still, the P&M's women chose to speak out against another woman. They chose to use their voice to speak out against another woman. And I don't want to get too much. You would have noticed that I skimmed through that because, that's internal P&M business. But they put out a media release. So they put that out into the national domain. And the language was really, really, really appalling, apart from the grammar, But it's just disturbing that so much is going on. You're talking about the schools, you're talking about abuse, and the P&M's women, they chose to use their voice, their national platform, to attack another woman, for her opinion,
You're talking about Karen Nunes.
That influence, when you are given such a platform, then you ought to really use it for for women in general in society, for uplifting of women, not for bringing down women. You see the UNC Women's Arm, they're out and about constantly protesting on behalf of every single woman in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of inflation, in terms of unemployment, in terms of our safety. The UNC's Women Arm was very instrumental in protesting against Andrea Barrett, against, the dumping ground in a repo. That is what I would want a woman's arm to do. We are at a time where our women must come together. And so I was just very appalled that they would use their voice to speak like that. And as I said, it's this way that PNM handles things, this code of secrecy needs to stop. And since my press release, we would have seen the Children's Authority, we would have seen Foster Cummings. There's this secrecy needs to stop. That's the bottom line. You are accountable to the government, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You cannot continue to sweep things under the carpet. So when Daryl Smith's report came, you did not lay it publicly. You paid whoever off, and it just went away. Foster Cummings, that was a 2019 report. 2019, you received a report. This guy then became a candidate. He then became a member of parliament in your government. Then he became a minister, a full minister in your cabinet. So it seems as though this little boys club, they're keeping secrets for each other and promoting each other. It's almost as though, well, you want to make it in PNM, then you've got to keep our secrets. Because the more you keep our secrets, the more you're promoted. And we must say no. Secrecy is toxic. It is very toxic. And you would have seen in my media release that I linked that entire... You see, we don't understand that the way a country runs, the atmosphere of the country, society, the fabric of the society starts from our leadership. Just like with homes and everything else, it starts with our leadership.
So what's been the response to it?
Our leaders can treat women like that, and bully women like that, then what are you leaving for the rest of society?
What's been the response generally to the press release?
I just felt it really in poor taste. And again, with the report that came out, there was a lot of secrecy that was exposed, people trying to make reports. And every time you make a report, there's a certain level of bullying happening. And I just think our leaders ought to really set an example. You see Kamala Persad-Bissessar nearly every week. There are people that are intent on hating, on making up lies about her, in rewriting her character. And yet you see her on a political platform saying, come home. It doesn't matter. Come home. She tells us constantly, listen, be kind, be kind, be kind, because we want to go out there and defend her. We want to go out there and say what we want to say. And she says, be kind, be respectful, be respectful. And as I say, she stands on a national platform nearly every week saying, come home.
All right, so what I'm trying to get at is what's been the response?
And that is just the difference in leadership.
Well, what's been the response to the press release thus far?
7 years under toxic Keith Rowley, we're seeing the results in society.
What's been the response? What's been the response to the press release thus far?
Well, so I would tell you that I write, maybe you've just joined the list because I got an updated list, but I write several press releases. And I have had, several protests, etc. People would come, reporters would come, camera crew would come. They would interview me fully. They would call for just to fill in the gaps, and then nothing. And then they'll come and say, we have no idea why, So I don't know if, our Prime Minister has issued some sort of directive that, my stuff should not be printed. I have no idea. But again, that's the PNM's way, to bully anybody that opposes you and to make it out as though we're unpatriotic, when in fact, if anybody knows, it's very difficult for my husband to get any kind of contract or anything. We live in Diego Martin. So the victimization, is crazy. Some people outright say you went up against the Prime Minister. Do you understand that we cannot be associated with you? And
So people say that to you? People say that to you?
Unpatriotic when we stand up and fight for the country. In fact, it's literally laying our lives down.
Right. Well, I'm trying
to want better for the country.
I'm trying to get an emphasis on that. You say people say that to you?
That's just PNM propaganda, twisting everything we do, right?
People say that to you, that because you went up against the Prime Minister, they are shy or afraid of dealing with it?
Yep. Outright. In those exact words. I kid you not. It's very difficult. I mean, it's very, very difficult to go up against a Prime Minister. And this Prime Minister, I mean, you could speak to so many people. I mean, even in PNM's own camp, Keith Rowley, I mean, I've never liked PNM, though I have voted. I tell that story all the time. I grew up in a PNM home. My husband grew up in a PNM home. So we knew nobody from UNC, and it's only later on trying, when I got to know PNM, I wanted to serve the country. And then I realized there's no way I could serve under PNM. I've never believed in the fundamentals of their party, the founding policies, etc. But Patrick Manning was a gentleman. Keith Rowley is toxic. Bottom line, he is toxic. And people, whether you like Trump, you don't like Trump, whatever. During the U.S. elections, people used to say that Trump is empowering racism, and that's why we must get rid of him, etc., etc. Keith Rowley is empowering misogyny. He is empowering disrespect to women. He is empowering violence. His tone, my daughter's 12, and my daughter said, if you have a prime minister, and he comes out on national television when children are sitting in front of the television, and you could say, she would say, "Don't jack donkey the scene," right? We all know the statement. What are you leaving for our children? What are you leaving? Everything about Keith Rowley is just so incredibly toxic.
All right, I want to get you back. I want to get you back on what you said earlier.
All the way down to society.
I want to get you back on what you said earlier. That reporters will come to you, take stories, do an interview with you, and then it doesn't appear, and they say, well, they don't know why.
Yeah.
And you believe that there's some magic hand behind that?
Well, it's no secret. If you go back to the kind of media coverage that I had gotten during the general election, even before the general election, I have, it's funny, right? Look, that's actually, I think this was the front page. Oh, well, this particular one was in the front page, right?
Yeah.
But I have made, and I remember in the 2020 election, somebody said, well, you're a real media darling. And even before the 2020 election, I spoke on a Diego Martin platform. I was not a candidate. I was not even in the running, nomination. It was actually it was local government election at the time. And they had asked, if I would speak on a platform because it was a Diego Martin meeting. And I was featured in every single newspaper. That was the start of a beautiful relationship between me and the media. Every single thing that I said, every release, it would be printed. My first protest, again, just everything, media picked it up. All of a sudden, as I said, media would always show up to my protest. They would always show up to everything. They would call. They would say, hey, can we get some more information? We just this and that. And then nothing. And when I follow up, I say, hey, did it print? Because, of course, we all want to keep our clippings and keep it for our kids to show that, we've fought for your future. And they say, I don't know. So whoever knows, more secrecy.
Well, this one will be there in the record, but I also...
And I appreciate it.
I just want to get, this is a question you ask here, because the Women's League did issue a statement, at least one,
yes,
challenging some of what, former member of the party,
and the media carried it, and I mean, the thing is, I love the media because the media has a very important role in society. So even that, I would think that, again, it's so toxic, because that, the first thing is, PNM women take Karen to task and whatnot. And again, internal PNM politics is not my issue. But then that story, because you've used your national voice, now gets carried into the media to say, you know what, it's okay for one woman's group to attack another individual. It is okay to use bullying language. And I just think that to be, my personal thing. When I see people attack Kamla Persad-Bissessem, this is not about UNC. This is about women fighting for their space in politics. It is about women fighting for their space in the corporate world, women fighting for their space in society, for our voice to be heard. When we look at the individual of Kamla Persad-Bissessem, and I say to people all the time, had it not been politics, she would be a legend. You have this small frame lady who would have grown up in poverty, fought her way through education in a man's world. Let's be honest, back then it was even worse. She would have become the first attorney general, the first prime minister. She would have championed so many cases. She was part of developing and really still isn't perfect, but the cohabitation laws. She would have really fought for women in society. She would have paved the way for women in society. We just did a Mother's Day video. And if you listen to so many of our young women, Michelle Benjamin said, I see a woman who would put her character, her family, her whole life on the line. And that's what, and when she said it, I knew exactly what she meant.
All right.
Because when you speak to her, it's, let me take the jam. Let me take the jam. And she stands as a protector of her troops.
All right.
It's like she's a lioness and she's protecting her tribe.
All right.
And
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there.
I would like to see from women.
All right.
So for a women's league to use their national platform so that media headlines now become about women bullying women, I just think it's totally unacceptable. That's not what we should be using our platform for.
All right. We want to thank you very much, Ms. Walker.
If you would permit me.
We're going to have to leave it there.
Very, very quick.
Go ahead.
30 seconds.
Go ahead.
This Thursday, as in today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
2 days from now.
TT Speaks is rolling right into Diego Martin. We have a fantastic lineup. Of course, I will be speaking. We have Senator Damian Lyda speaking. Anil Roberts is speaking. Because we actually have quite a few phenomenal UNC persons, parliamentarians that live in Diego Martin, right? So it's a full lineup. It is in the Diamond Vale Central Community Center. So that's the one opposite True Value on the Boulevard. And it is from 7 to 9 p.m. So we want...
On Thursday.
You could come in your red, you could come in your purple, you could come in your green, your white, your tie-dye. You can come in.
All right, thank you very much. We got to go. So it's Thursday.
Come have a conversation with us and let's speak.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Marsha Walker. All right. So